Hey guys, my guest tonight, Barbara Shupe, is going to tell us about coexisting and living in nature with Bigfoot. We'll be right back. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust, turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? Tuesday. Welcome. My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour. I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team, based out of Sacramento, California. We are 45 strong, up and down the state. So that means if you have a paranormal need, or you think you have a paranormal need, we can get to you. It might take us a while because California is huge. People don't realize how huge it is. And in the case that it takes us 1 or 2 days to get to you, we have psychics on staff who can phone you and talk to you about what may or may not be going on. And in most cases, if there is something going on, they can calm the energy down until we can get out there. All right. Tonight, if you're watching from Facebook, and a lot of you are, and you haven't done so already, and you happen to like what you hear and see, please hit that follow button. You know, we're always looking for followers and things like that. And please be sure to give us a thumbs up, a happy face, smileys, whatever, you know, to let us know that you like us. What that does is there's a master computer at Facebook, just like there is over at YouTube and all the other places, and that puts us out there so the computer notices us and they put us out to more people. So that would be great if you could help us a little bit. Same thing with YouTube. There's over 900 videos sitting at YouTube right now of this show. We've been on the air for 4.5 years, and yeah, there's all kinds of topics. I'm a journalist, photojournalist, so I like to talk about different things, just like today we're Bigfoot. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the mafia in Hollywood. I like to vary it, okay? That's just my journalist self doing that. And it goes the same thing. All the social media places work the same, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, or Twitter, right. Or X. And all the other ones that we appear the show on, my mind just suddenly went, you know. It's all about conversations in the chat room. It's all about likes. It's all about, just showing all those places that you like to show. Okay, now that that's all the niceties are over, I can't wait for tonight's guest. I have been a Bigfoot follower since I was probably around 8 years old. First book I ever got was right at Mount Rainier in the guest. We drove up that little road to Mount Rainier, which, by the way, is spectacular, Barbara. I'll tell you that much because of the waterfalls and everything. I've driven up Mount Shasta, not as spectacular as Mount Rainier. All the waterfalls and all that, beautiful drive. We go up there to, I think it was up higher, to that guest shop. Got my first Bigfoot book. I still have it. It's called the Bigfoot Case Book. It's green. It's a good size book. I still have this thing. I memorized every story in this book. I was so impressed by the whole thought of Bigfoot. And then later on in my family's life, we ended up buying a house near Montague, up in Northern California, and we were only about maybe 15, 20 minutes outside of Happy Camp. So we spent a lot of weekends going into Happy Camp and talking with the Bigfoot researchers up there, and I actually got to see some casts of footprints and things. So it was pretty cool, because after they would come in for the evening, they would all meet at the local hamburger shop. And so my family, knowing this, we would go sit in there so we could talk to them and listen to them talk about being out in the field. So I'm really excited to have Barbara on. I followed Barbara for a while. In fact, a few years ago, I kind of had a conversation with her, and so here we are again. And she's got a really unique thing going on with the way at that time it was interesting how she was interacting with Bigfoot. So I want to hear the updates on all this. I'm really excited. So without further ado, let me bring Barbara Shupe in, and let's get this show on the road. Hello.
Hello.
I am so excited excited to have you.
Well, it's good to be here.
The wrong button, too. Look at that. I got so excited. I hit the wrong button. There we go. Tell me about you.
Well, I live in a tiny community north of Mount Rainier in the middle of the Cascade Mountains, and I have Sasquatch for neighbors.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And
it is
how
pretty
many
cool.
years have you lived up there with Sasquatch?
Say that again?
How many years have you existed up there with Sasquatch?
Well, I've been here for about 32 years, and right off the bat, I had my first experience, but I didn't really know what was happening until about 12 years ago. There was a lot of things that made me scratch my head and go, gee, I wonder if that's something a Sasquatch might do. But then I'd write it off thinking, it's a small town and everybody knows everything. And if we had Sasquatches, we'd be talking about it. And I just was not connecting the dots. And now I know.
So what event made you connect the dots? Because I know at one point when I talked to you a few years back, you were putting food in trees as kind of like gifts for them. So what made you connect the dots?
Well, the very first time I walked up the trail up here, I found a perfect footprint and found some broken branches. And over the years, there were, rocks being thrown and strange vocals, owls that growl, things like that. But it wasn't until I actually saw the big Sasquatch up on the hill following the elk up here that, I finally put it all together. And, I had known that there were Sasquatch that had been here, but I was thinking that was like one lone individual passing through to more remote places. So, once I saw what was out there and I started having my light bulb moments, from all the things that had happened over the years, I finally figured it out that it's not just one lone individual. There's a whole family out here. And so that's when I started doing the gifting. I was taking out pies and jars of peanut butter and toys and pretty much anything I could think of that I thought might amuse them. And it worked pretty well. We've built quite a good relationship with it.
Were you afraid at first? I mean, it must be difficult, to be out in the woods and hiking, and you notice that something like this is following you at a distance.
No, I was never really afraid of them. I'd already spent so many years by myself in the woods that, I figured if they were going to get me, it would have happened a long time ago. And I'm still doing okay. So there was a few things right off the very beginning. I did a few things. I didn't know what I was doing. And I kind of felt my heart coming up into my throat, wondering, what have you done now? But it worked out fine. And I think it's just a matter of getting used to the idea that they're out there. And, I think that if I hadn't been in the woods for as long as I had been when I had my first real experience, it probably would have been a lot scarier. But I'm so comfortable in the woods already that, it didn't bother me.
It probably helps, too, that there's a lot of information about these things out there. So even when I'm out, even now, because I live in the city of Sacramento, or the county of Sacramento, when I go up to Tahoe and different places like that, that's in the back of my mind. That hey, this could be my lucky day. I'm going to come in contact with something like that. So maybe it was part of that too, because I think every hiker thinks about that stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think every time I drove up and down the highway, I would think to myself, well, maybe this will be the day that a Sasquatch is in front of the car. This will be the day I get to see something. And, I never had any idea how close I really was.
Well, my sister lives in Fort Bragg. So getting up there through Willits, and the Willits Road at night, you can't see anything. It's desolate when you're up there. And that was my thought is, oh my God, I'm going to be driving, up here, and it's gonna jump out, jump out of the woods and just cross the road in front of me. That was my thought, but never happened because you hear those stories all the time. Where people see it, or like the guy that was sleeping in his car, and he felt the car shake, and he woke up and he saw the eyes staring into him from the back.
Yeah, or they wake up and they find the big handprints on the back of the car.
Yeah. You hear about that stuff all the time. When you talk about a family of Bigfoot being in your area, how big a family are we talking about? Or were you able to determine that?
I could only speculate on how many, but I know there's at least mom and dad and 3 juveniles that I know of. Aside from that, there's probably aunts and uncles and cousins, and yeah, it's hard to say. But I know there's at least mom, dad, and three young ones.
And like you say, when you started communicating with them, you gave them things that you thought would amuse them. How did you know that? Obviously, with the food, it would be taken and eaten. But like with the other stuff, how did you know they were messing with it?
Um, sometimes things were just rearranged. Sometimes things would disappear and then they'd come back. One of the things I'd take out was, the toy balls with the lights and the flashing glitter inside of them. And I took 3 of those out and they all disappeared. And one of them they actually brought back after the stopper had been pulled and all the liquid drained out of it. I don't know if they thought I could fix it or not, but they brought that one back. I took out bubble wrap one time. I left that out there and they actually took that across the creek. And you can see they sat there and popped every bubble on it, just like we would. Had to try it out. Thought that was pretty cool. So that I took another piece out and they never touched it because, it's kind of like us. Once you've done it once, you're good.
Right. That's pretty funny, the bubble wrap. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, have you noticed, so once you started doing this, did you notice that, and I don't know how much contact you've had with them, but I mean, were they a little friendlier towards you as well? And if you did see one, or were they still kind of doing their thing off in the distance?
I think they're always just off doing their thing. And when it's convenient for them, when they're around, especially the young ones, they'll play with us. And I think a lot of it in the beginning was they were wanting to play with my dog, Gabby.
Mm-hmm.
There's times, where we'd just be out walking and suddenly she's got a ball and I don't know where she got it.
Mm-hmm.
Or she'd get the zoomies and start running around and she'd stop and look to see if are they watching.
Mm-hmm.
There was a few times that we were at the gifting area and suddenly there's 2 Gabbies. There's a little black individual just comes racing through and she takes off running with it and she comes back looking for her friend who doesn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of it was the young ones that were just wanting to play with her. And
that's
they've
incredible.
grown up here, so
That's incredible. And then you started a group, correct, to do research on it?
Well, I wouldn't specifically say to do research. It's more of just to have interactions and be able to come together as like-minded people and be able to share our experiences and bring our Bigfoot energy together and share.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just having that collective energy together it invites them. Everybody's got their own experiences that they bring with them, and it creates this environment that's just amazing. And we have a lot of really amazing activity and experiences, and it's not so much about collecting the evidence as about the experience.
Oh, I agree 100% with that. I mean, people can be scientific all they want looking for this thing, but with the way you're doing it, you're going to get a lot more out of it than a scientist will get out of it.
Oh, yeah. And you can get all the videos you want, all the proof you want, and it's not really going to convince anybody.
Mm-hmm.
The people that want to believe are going to believe, and the people that don't won't. And there's really nothing that is as wonderful as a firsthand experience.
Excellent.
You can look at pictures and videos and read stories, but until you've experienced it for yourself, there's nothing beats that.
Mm-hmm. In your best guesstimation, how tall are the ones that you have out in your area?
Well, the smallest one that I've seen was about 5.5 feet. That was just one of the little ones.
Mm-hmm.
And the mama Sasquatch, she's at least 10 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw one over in the Blues the summer before last that measured at 15 feet. So I think they're a lot bigger than what most people would think. They start out small, and I don't really think there's a whole lot of limitation when it comes to how far they're going to go. A lot of people think that 8-9 feet is as big as a Sasquatch is going to be, and I think that's pretty much just a juvenile.
I was just thinking that, and as far as a lot of the interactions that people have with Bigfoot and Sasquatch, with what you're telling me about the heights, this is juveniles that are curious, that are out looking in people's cars and doing stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just find the whole thing so interesting. And have they come to where you live, or is there a certain spot that they will hang out in?
Both, they come here to the cabin. They leave me gifts in the yard. They put leaves on my car, and I've got some fingerprints on the windows. And but also out in the woods, there's certain places that I can go to out there, and I'll just, whether they're there or not, I'll go out and talk to them, and I'm sure that one way or another they hear me. And then when we have our campouts, there's certain places that we go to, and they pretty much always show up. And I don't know whether it's different Sasquatches that are there in those particular spots all the time, or if it's the same ones that are here going back and forth, because it's really just a few miles away. But if not the same ones, I'm sure they're at least related. So, yeah.
Well, see, I always wondered about that, even down in Montague, even though it was more farmland. But the mountain, I mean, Shasta was about, 15, 20 miles away. So, I mean, you had all that. And I always wondered at night, because we had like a 5.5-foot fence around the property. And you could hear something walking around at night on the property itself. Now, deer maybe, maybe deer jumped it. I don't know, but it always made me wonder about the Sasquatch coming down for water or whatever, in the little town and walking around at night.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think a 5.5-foot fence would slow them down at all.
Yeah. That's what I always thought too. Because I thought, what animal could actually get over a 5.5-foot fence like that, unless it's in a dead jump? Like for a deer, or even a bobcat has to get a really good jump to get over that. So that thought had occurred to me too. And it sounded like somebody heavy walking around out there. So you never know. You never know. In the years that you've been doing this, what are the unique things that you have discovered about these creatures?
Well, they have some really amazing abilities. They can make their eyes glow. They can turn it on and off. It's not a reflection. It's an internal light, and it can be in assortment of colors. A lot of people think that the red means they're mad, and I don't believe that. That just one of the colors they have. I've seen it in the red and yellow, yellowish white. I saw blue once. That's pretty cool. They can also cloak. They can become invisible at will and uncloak. They can get into your head, and when it comes to smells, I'm not sure if they actually produce odors or if they were just triggering things in your mind to make you think you're smelling odors, because you can be in a group of people and half of them are smelling something and the other half aren't, or hearing things too. Like 3 people will hear whistles and 3 people will hear knocks. Or you'll have a recorder going and everybody heard whistles, but the recording only picked up knocks. So I don't think that we always are perceiving exactly what's happening. I think that they can get into our heads and just trigger little chemical reactions to make us experience what they want us to experience.
Well, it's kind of like ghost hunting. You could be in a room doing an EVP session. Everybody hears a woman's voice. You play the recorder back, it's not there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I think it's subjective like that. Do you think that there's a paranormal link to Bigfoot? I mean, you're probably sick of hearing this kind of thing.
Oh, but definitely. I have no doubt about it.
And what do you think about, excuse me. It's hot here.
Was up here experiencing the things in the woods. I thought it was ghost stuff. There was a tavern up there where I worked that was haunted, and I'd hear things, I'd see flashing lights and orbs and things like that, and I thought all that was ghost stuff. And once I saw the Sasquatch cloaking and I saw the eyes and I had all the firsthand experiences, there's no more denying that there's definitely a paranormal connection. So,
and talking about along that line, I know you're probably sick of hearing this too. Do you think there's a connection with UFOs and things like that with them?
I do. Everybody has an idea of what they want Sasquatch to be, and I think we all start out thinking that they're just an undiscovered ape, and as time goes on, you learn more and more about it. And I didn't want them to be aliens. I didn't want them to be paranormal. I had all those things very carefully sorted out into their boxes. And you gotta give that kind of thinking up because there's so much crossover. I've experienced the orbs and the portals and the Sasquatch all in the same experience. And I can't say for sure. I don't know exactly what the UFOs are, but they're part of it.
See, I always thought in a weird sort of way that Sasquatch was meant to be a human hybrid, and once they could, it was like an early hybrid. Because you know how they're supposed to be experimenting all the time to make the perfect human hybrid. That maybe these were early hybrids that they made, and because of their nature, they just couldn't keep them aboard ship. So they went ahead and said, "Okay, there's all these forests. Go live in there. You're good to go."
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe we're the hybrids. Maybe they're always here.
So,
we don't really fit into the environment the way they do. So, maybe we're the ones that were altered.
it's like the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
It's reversed, right? Tell me can you tell me one of the most significant encounters you had with them, please?
Well, like I said, the one that was up on the hill here when he was following the elk, that was a really big one. The Cloaker event was 2 years later when I was up here just showing structures to a group, and I saw a Sasquatch pop up and take off running, and the camera captured something completely different. That was a major turning point. The times that about the eyes turning on and off. And, I seeing one leaping from treetop to treetop to treetop, that was pretty cool. He just kind of exploded out of the top of one tree, and he could, sorry, thing fell over.
You got your camera. No, okay.
But, gosh, it's hard to say exactly. Every experience is so amazing that it's hard to pick, anything that's more amazing than the one before.
Now, with the video that you were able to get, what did it look like on camera?
It looks like the Predator, from the Schwarzenegger movie, and that's what it looks like. I believe what happened was there was at least one, if not two, individuals that were basically right in front of us, and they dropped down and they were partially cloaked. I think that's what the camera picked up. And then when I saw them underneath the log and back up from behind it is when I saw one individual pop up and take off running. And that one was about 5.5 feet tall and all hair and arms and legs and feet flying. And he was mowing stuff down and dropped down into a hole between some logs. And when we went back the next day, we found 2 different trackways. So I know that there was at least 2 individuals that were there, even though I only saw the one. And we also had a voice that was heard that sounded like a mother calling her children. And my dad's wife was sitting just near there, and she saw a baby at the same time that all this happened, right in the same area. So that was a lot.
Well, when you think about a film, how does it compare? Because when everybody thinks of Bigfoot film, we think of Patterson-Gimlin, obviously. So how does your footage compare to that, or did it compare at all?
I don't think it really does compare, because it's like apples and oranges. What the Patterson-Gimlin film shows is an actual Sasquatch, a full-bodied Sasquatch walking across the creek bed. What my video shows is what I believe to be a cloaked Sasquatch.
Okay.
And, if you look in the background, you can see what I believe is the domed head of one of the individuals moving back away, but there's really not enough there to really make out anything clear. Yeah, the main highlight of the video is just that few seconds when you see the individual drop down.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I've seen the video. It's really cool. I love this video. In fact, I've watched it many times trying to figure out. That's right. Down that rabbit hole trying to figure stuff out with it.
Yeah.
Like you say, how does Gabby feel? I know you said, sometimes there'll be a dog or a ball will come out. How does Gabby feel when the big individuals are around? I mean, is she calm when she's out there because she's used to them, or does she growl?
Well, she was standing right next to me the day that we saw the big one following the elk, and it vanished. I stood there and I stared at that spot for it seemed like, I don't know how long, but it was probably 5 to 10 minutes just trying to grasp what had happened. And when I finally looked away and looked down at her, she was staring right where I was, and she hadn't moved a muscle or made a sound. And, she was really good about it. I think maybe, she was having her own experiences with them, with the young ones playing with her. But after that, before that day, when we'd go out in the woods and sit, she'd always sit on my feet and lean against my legs.
Mm-hmm.
But after that day, she would always sit behind me and lean against my back. Like, we just don't know where they're going to pop up. So you watch that way and I'll watch this way and we'll be all good.
And then maybe too, it's animals communicating with animals. They have that ability, and they're able to talk. Even to dogs. I mean, look at our own dogs, cats. I mean, you can see them communicating with each other. It's obvious.
Oh yeah,
what they're doing.
They know things.
Yeah, they know things.
Yeah.
So are you still feeding them? Are you still going out there to leave food for them and stuff?
No, I did that for 3 years, and it served its purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It was never meant to be a permanent situation. It was just, initially I was planning on habituating them, getting them accustomed to me. But, as time went on, I realized I was the one who was really being habituated.
Mm-hmm.
And, when we go to different places, sometimes I'll take a feather or a rock and something that I think is cool, and I'll say, this is for you, just because I think it's wonderful, and I think you should have it, and I'll leave it for them. But I don't ever put out food or anything like that anymore. So,
when you talk about them leaving gifts for you, you talked about leaves on your car window. What other types of things do they leave for you?
Well, they left me a couple handfuls of slugs. I've got my garden out here, and I don't like to use any poisons or anything. So in the spring and the summer, I go out with a flashlight and a pan and my gloves, and I pick the slugs up, and then I transfer them out into the woods across the road here. And I've got a little habitat where hopefully they'll be happy and they'll stay there.
Mm-hmm.
And, after a while, I start running low on slugs. And, so they brought me a couple of handfuls back. And the first handful I found, they're like all stuck together, and there's like big ones and little ones and 3 different varieties. And I'm looking at that going, wow, I didn't know slugs did that. Well, they don't. So yeah, I've had a few handfuls of slugs just so that I don't run out. And I think that's because they like to see me going out there at night looking for them. So
right.
Yeah.
Right. I used to have this vision of a juvenile Sasquatch sent out by the parent to go find these slugs.
Yeah.
It just occurred to me. I mean,
I'm picturing me out there pitching my pan of slugs into this nice little habitat I built, and they're just picking them right back up.
Yeah. Maybe that's what they're doing too. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. There's a story in my house. It has nothing to do with like slugs or anything, but it was Easter Sunday, and I had this little terrier dog, and my sister went out back to hide the Easter eggs. Well, what she didn't realize was the dog fit. I don't know what the dog was thinking. So the dog left a pile of these Easter eggs on the patio because it thought that they shouldn't be out there or whatever, but it brought the Easter eggs back.
Being helpful.
So it's possible, that the Sasquatch would do that stuff. That makes a lot of sense. They're just helping you out. That's all.
Oh, that's funny.
So, as a group, and like you say, you compare experiences because there's nothing like experiences. Tell me about the voices, the different things they say, because, I've heard the Sierra sounds. I've also heard the other sounds out of Oregon, that actually sound like human voices. Which one of those is close to what you've heard? Because the Sierra sounds to me sounds like it's Asian.
I've heard 2 different kinds. Here in Greenwater, I've heard them where they sound, it's very guttural and it's deep, and it sounds, it's more of like when I first heard it, I thought it was mutant German hunters. It's just very strange. It's definitely a talking, but it's just very powerful, very deep, very strong. And then the first time I went to the Blues, I heard talking over there, and it was completely different. It was like the samurai chatter. It definitely. I was actually looking around, thinking maybe there was a tour bus had arrived, and because it was completely different. It wasn't nearly as deep, and it was a lot faster, and it sounded a lot more like Ron Moorhead's recordings. The samurai chatter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like a samurai chatter. I call it Asian, but yeah, that's what his recordings. I still have those on my laptop here. That's what his recordings sound like to me.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when you're out walking in the woods that you're being watched at all? That they're there watching you?
Um, I think so. It's gotten to be so that I kind of get the spidey sense anymore
Mm-hmm.
when they're around, and I go up and I'll talk to them and I'll tell them whatever's happening, or just say hello, or whether I know that they're there or not, I'll talk to them because I know that maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But if they are, I want them to know that I'm paying attention, and I'm reaching out, trying to communicate, and yeah, I
Just to
think
let
they
them know
really.
what's going on.
What's that?
Just to let them know what's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe that they hear me. Whether or not it's a mental communication or they're actually listening to my voice. I don't know that everybody that's out there can actually hear me mentally, so I like to communicate both ways.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Do you let's talk about that too, because you mentioned that you think that there might be a mental connection there too. Do you think they have the ability to do that?
Yeah, I think it's a personal thing on how well your ability to pick it up, to receive.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I was a lot younger, I used to know things, like I could just go into the woods and I'd know where the fawns were and things like that. But, I'm a lot older now, and I think whatever receives is a little more worn out, and, it doesn't work as well as it did when I was younger. So there's a lot of people will hear specific, voices talking to them. And
Mm-hmm.
in my head, I mostly just get like images,
Mm-hmm.
and, it'll, like pictures, like a flash of place. The first time that happened to me, I was just crossing the road to go up the trail out here, and it was I kept getting a flash of a spot downriver where I used to go and pick rocks.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I've heard about this. Let's go for it. So I went down to that spot, and the river was too high to look for rocks, and the trail ended there. And I was a little bit annoyed with myself that here I was in this spot, and it was like, well, what the heck? I don't know why I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I'm just going to bushwhack back into the area I was originally going to go. So I turn and I cut back into the trees, and right there's a tree leaning that's kind of got the root wad sticking up with a gap, and there's an empty peanut butter jar right there. And just the day before, I had asked if I could have any peanut butter jars back. And so I believe they gave me that picture to send me to a place where I would find the jar.
Mm-hmm.
Without ever using any words.
Well, it fascinates me that it seems like they understand what you're saying. That fascinates me because like we talk, the samurai chatter and whatever that deep guttural chatter is. It just amazes me that maybe, like you say, maybe they're in your head, and you're showing them a picture of what you want or whatever, but they're still communicating enough to have that jar waiting for you because you wanted those jars back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that there's a lot of places like this where we're right on the edge of civilization, where there's all these cabins are here, and the people that are here have been here for decades, most of us. And so it's a safe place for them to bring the youngsters to watch us, and, not only, learn how we function, talk, how we move, how we think, and just be able to grow up observing us, And I think there's a lot of places like this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just the mental communication. It's they're literally here watching, learning.
And it's educational, not only for them, for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
To learn about them. Absolutely. In a safe environment. Because there's a lot of people out there that would like to take a gun and bring one in to show people. Look, when you look back way on those old cases, like that group of trappers that shot at one, and the next thing you know, they're throwing boulders against the cabin because they're pissed off.
Yeah.
Because they took a shot at them. But I agree with you. Be peaceful to them; they're peaceful back to you.
Yeah, a little respect goes a long ways.
Mm-hmm. 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 What are your goals? You come to this point in your life. You got your YouTube channel. What's your ultimate goal in all this?
Just keep having experiences. I'd like to get to the point where someday where I could actually sit down beside one of them, and talk to them one-on-one. maybe, be able to do that with a group of friends, with the people that I go camping with, to be able to have the fire going and have them just come and sit down next to us and, just be comfortable and feel safe enough to just sit there and be one of us, or let us be one of them,
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you this silly question. Speaking of being one of them, what did you think of the movie Harry and the Hendersons?
I loved
Honestly,
it.
I figured you might. Yeah.
How could you not? I mean, he's the most lovable Sasquatch there is. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I was just curious because when you talk about, I'd like to come sit by the campfire with me. There you have it. It's a hairy thing. Where they not doing stuff. When you talk to people about their sightings of the Sasquatch, can you tell if because of the experience that you have? Can you tell if someone's yanking your chain or not?
Oh yeah, yeah. The biggest clue is you see it in somebody's eyes when they've had the experience. When they're talking about it, and you can feel it. You can sense that experience because they are reliving it as they're relaying it to you. And when somebody's just talking nonsense or making stuff up, there's none of that. There's that total vibe, that whole energy is completely different. And when you look in their eyes, all you see is a line of bull. You don't see that glory, is the magic and the wonder and the spectacular beauty of it all is not there. So
Now, you talked about seeing footprints earlier. How big do you estimate these footprints were that you saw?
oh, let's see. Well, the smallest ones I've found were about like that, just little ones. And the biggest one was up here on the hill, not long after I saw the elk follow, the one that was following the elk. And that one, I never got a chance to measure it. It was just under the surface of a really shallow puddle, and it somewhere close to 22 inches. I had, there goes the camera again. I had just enough time to count the toes and then go, where's the heel? Looking and looking and looking, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, it suddenly registered what you're looking at, and then the dog ran through the puddle and it was gone. So
that was it.
but we got to count the toes and take it all in for a second. So
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what do you tell people that may have that may be out in the woods and then maybe they want to look for one, but they're kind of afraid? I mean, is this one of those things where you go out looking, you're not going to find it? You have to just be out there at the right place at the right time.
I think it's a matter of they're going to find you, and if this is something that you really want to pursue, go out to the woods and be respectful and just talk to the forest. And it's going to feel really weird the first few times you do it, especially if you get caught by your neighbors or anything. But just go out and talk to the forest and tell them what you're interested in, what you're thinking about, and then just spend time out there. Read a book, pick berries, pick mushrooms, look for rocks. Just do people stuff and do the things that raises your vibration and makes you happy, and try to put off that kind of vibe toward them. I think that they're attracted to us when we're happy and we're laughing and our hearts are light. So once you've made that connection to them, I think that it's a done deal. Once they've heard you and they know that I think then your journey is really going to begin.
I also think what a lot of city folks don't realize is how, even though the forest is quiet, you can hear everything that's going on. You can hear all the footsteps of animals, all that stuff. So I think it pays to be quiet as well, to be able to hear this stuff.
Yep. Always wear cotton in the woods, especially at night when you want to listen, because nylon makes a lot of noise. Stick with cotton.
Cotton, gotta remember that. Put cotton. My producer had the same thought I did when you were talking about having Bigfoot come sit by the campfire. I had the same vision of roasting marshmallows. Yes, I could just see it stick hanging out of roasting marshmallows with the Sasquatch doing that. Do you think that people should be afraid of these animals or these beings? I call them beings.
I think that's depends on the person. If you're somebody who's out there looking to harvest a body, if you're out there looking for proof and you're armed and you're looking for a way to hurt them,
Yeah.
then maybe you should be afraid, because they're not going to let that happen. And if you're a threat or a hazard or a danger to them or their family, I think they're going to protect themselves. But otherwise, I really don't think that there's any kind of issue that's going to make them attack anybody. You know, a lot of people say I barely made it out of the woods with my life. Well,
Right,
no, you
right.
made it out just fine. If they were going to get you, you wouldn't be here telling the story.
That's true. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Do you go out at night sometimes looking for them, or do you just mainly like during the day for you?
Both. It depends on the weather. You know, when the weather's nice, I like to go out and walk around in the dark sometimes just to see what's going on out there, look for orbs and lights and talk to them. And so both.
Do you notice that the noises? Okay, we'll get back to the forest noises here. Do you notice that the noises change when they're around? You know, like will things get real quiet, or is it just normal noises of the forest? You know, when you see them.
You know, I've been up there before when the birds were just going off and the squirrels were going off, and it sounded like Jurassic Park, and had an experience. And then there's other times when it's just dead silence, and then, you know, something will happen and, you know, they're around. I think it just depends on the situation. You know, I don't think that all the birds go quiet just because they're there. I think they're part of nature and they're accustomed to having them around. But I have seen the elk become very frantic when they're around. I've seen the elk standing in the middle of the highway and in people's yards, rearing up and spinning in a circle like they want to run, but they don't know what direction to run to. You know, so I think when the wildlife is being hunted, they know they're being hunted.
Okay. Thank you, Penny. Appreciate it. I'm so fascinated by this. I would love to go up and hang out with you for like a week, just to experience this stuff. I mean, it's just absolutely fascinating for me, because you know, like I said, I've been fascinated by this since I was like 8 years old. This is a thing for me.
Me too.
So, what do you think? Well, what do you think that you know, just out of the blue here? Because I mean, obviously you don't know what they're thinking, but how do you think they feel about you?
You know, I think they like me.
Mm-hmm.
I like them, and you know, I'm respectful to them, and I think that they bring me the gifts, the slugs, and the things because they like me. They feel like I'm a safe person,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, when there's things that are hard that happen, you know, they show their support. When Gabby passed away, they came out here and they decorated the signs on the bridge with leaves, just the way we decorated the yard. And yeah, I think they have really big hearts, and I think they can become connected to people. Yeah.
So when you do go out to camp and stuff, and like you say, you know, you hope at some point that they'll feel, you know, relaxed enough with you to come into the campsite. Do you hear them circling your camp and stuff when you're out there, especially at night?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I like to camp beside the river, you know, especially where there's a drop off and they can come right up to the edge. We'll stack our firewood in a little wall right beside us so they can come up and hang out right on the other side of that. And you can hear them sometimes responding to stories we tell or jokes we tell. You know, we're all laughing and you get a chuckle from, you know, the other side of the wood pile. Or this one of my favorite spots to camp up here a couple of years ago, our very first night there. There was 5 ladies, and I'm in my tent, and 2 of my friends are in the tent beside me, and I hadn't been in there for maybe 10 minutes when I hear the boom, 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 as one ran past and shook the cot in my tent. So the next morning, I was so excited. I got up and waiting for Terry to get up, and it's like, so did anything happen last night? She's like, yeah, somebody ran through camp. And I said, did you feel anything? And she says, yeah, it shook my cot. I was like, me too. So, you know, these things, when they do that, I know that's intentional. They did that just, you know, just specifically so that they knew we would feel it, you know?
And they're not taking your supplies or anything either, are they?
Oh, no, no. But, you know, they will play with things. They'll get into the car. You know, we have a snack table, and at night we lock away all the food. You know, we don't want to attract bears, and we don't want mice and things getting into it and things like that. But they will get into the cars and play with things. And they'll get into the tents. They'll get into stuff and just just looking at things. I don't think they mean to do any harm or steal or anything like that. They're just checking it out.
And you mentioned going up there with 5 women. You guys aren't afraid to go up there by yourselves?
No. Nope. The scariest thing in the woods is people,
Okay. Yeah.
And I think as long as we're together, nobody's gonna get us. And we've got some really big friends looking out for us too. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Um, Going back to kind of like your first encounter with this stuff, what did you think at the time? I mean, did it scare you at first? Because I mean, obviously this big thing is watching you.
No. No. The only time I was ever scared was the first time I went out. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock, and I did a wood knock on a frozen cottonwood, and it rang out into the forest, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I could hear 2 of them coming from one direction, one side of the trail, and then there was like the freight train coming from the other direction, and I could hear the trees getting pushed over and everything, and that was a little nerve-wracking. But he stopped, about 100 feet out on the other side of the creek, never came any closer, and so we're good. I just didn't. At that point, I was so new at this that I didn't even know to talk to him. So yeah, I had no clue what to do, so I hit the tree again, which just riled him up more. Which now looking back, I know how disrespectful that was, but at the time, I didn't have a clue. And then I went back later and I found the trackway, his tracks where he came down. I found the trees that I heard come down, and his tracks hadn't stopped right where across the creek from me where I was at. There was a big, huge patch of yellow snow where he had a big T right there. And then followed me back to the cabin. I found his tracks followed me all the way back here that night. So
The man had to go.
yeah.
Just goes to show you, they go just like we do. It's not a problem.
Yep. There was a very large brown pit in the middle of this thing. So, yeah, he was a boy.
It was a boy.
Yeah.
So when you talk about tree knocks, let's talk about that a little bit. And you talked about how offensive it was to them. Why was it offensive to them to hit that tree?
Because I think that's something that they use amongst themselves. I think it was probably like an emergency call or something like that. Because he came running. He the other 2 I think were smaller. They weren't nearly as loud, and I think they were just curious and coming to see what that sound was. But he came fast, and I think it was an alarm call. And hey, stop that!
Oh, is that your cat? I thought it was my old dog. Because he drags his stuff down the hallway.
Playing over here.
That's all good.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. I thought it was my old dog. I got a 16-year-old dog that has one of those helmet things on because he has rash problems. And he's down the hallway, boom, 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 boom. So that's what I thought it was. Back to the hitting the trees. What? So you feel that was like an emergency call?
Yeah, and after that, I had made a rule for myself that I wasn't going to knock on trees anymore, and I didn't. And about a year later, I decided, you know what? Let's just see. So I went up there in the middle of the night, and it wasn't frozen anymore. I hit a cottonwood, and it made a good knock, but it didn't echo out into the night like it had that time before. And I sat there in the dark for about a half an hour, and absolutely nothing happened. It was dead silence. There was nothing. And then the next day, I went out, and the tree I had knocked on had been pushed down over the trail.
Wow.
So, yeah. So that, to me, that acknowledged, it's not cool. Just don't do that.
Don't hit the trees.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think when you see these guys in those Bigfoot programs? And I was the BFRO. But what do you think about them, communicating that way then?
I think they're just doing whatever they can to get a response. They're not, their goal is proof and evidence. They're not trying to create a relationship. They're very limited in the respect department. They're not going out there looking at them as individuals with lives of their own. They're going out there looking as a form of wildlife that they want to bring in the proof.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
when they're going out and knocking on trees and stuff, they're just looking for a response. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you get it, but you're never really going to grow from that.
Because I know on there, they'll hit the tree and then they'll hear the noise, the response way back in the way back in the distance.
Yeah.
And are they trying to bring them in closer? Or, that's the ultimate goal, I guess, is to bring them in closer.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, it worked.
It worked for you.
It worked. Yeah. But I'm glad I gave it up because there's so much more to it than just that one experience,
Yeah. But see, you have learned more in doing this the way you do it than a lot of these investigators, these researchers that have been out for years, just because of the way you're handling it.
Well, you got to go with the flow. You got to be able to step out of your box.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said before, people go into the woods with an idea of what they want it to be, and they try to squeeze it into that idea, and it's not going to fit.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to let go of your preconceived notions and just accept what they're giving you, because it's not going to be anything like what you're thinking you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Absolutely. So when you say that they were educating you, how did you get that impression? Because obviously you were educating them to get used to humans and get used to you. So how do you think? They were. I can see it with the tree knocking. They're breaking. Obviously, that is as loud a code as you're going to get from someone. So how else do you feel that they've been educating you?
Um, the things that they respond to, like the music, and the laughter, and when you're just out hiking around and doing nothing, just going for a hike, chances are you're just going to go for a hike. But then when you get together with like-minded people and you start putting your focus and your energy and your vibrations out toward them, they respond to that, and it becomes something that's so much more than just a physical thing. You can have sightings and you can find footprints and you can hear vocals, but when you start getting that real connection to them, where you can get the spidey vibes, and you can have them run through camp as soon as you turn out the lights, and those are the things that are really special. Those are the things to work towards. And once you know that those are possible options, it really helps you to, change your ways of doing things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of encroachment on wildlife. That's why we just had the cougar attack up here up here in Georgetown, a couple of weeks ago. Or even when I was working at the newspaper up in Placerville, there were always accounts of wolves, wolves on the golf course and all this stuff. But with what you're saying about Bigfoot, people look at these animals as one. Not everybody, where they want to harm them because they're wild animals. But the way you're dealing with Bigfoot and stuff, it proves that we can live side by side with wildlife.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it all comes back to having some respect. If you want to harvest something, if you need a meal, you need a tree, you need something, go ahead, harvest it. Just do it respectfully. Don't just assume that you were born with the right to take whatever you need, whatever you want, however you want, without a thought or a concern as to the harm it might do to the individual you're taking it from. Just respect goes a long ways. Mindfulness. Just be aware, be conscious of how you affect the world around you, and not just people, but the environment, the forest, the water.
Absolutely. Well, that's what was interesting. Like during COVID, the pictures of the different rivers and the canals that were absolutely clear because nobody was out dumping dumping their garbage or taking baths in it or doing whatever they do in those rivers and lakes. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. Nature took it back.
Yep. Rather quickly too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really quick. Do you think that you got this relationship with them in a roundabout sort of way? Is it the same? Is it the same Sasquatch that you've been in contact with all these years, or do you think it's different family members coming down?
I think that there are other members that come through because sometimes things change. Things aren't always the same. You
Right.
know, there's a particular place up here where we find a lot of very artistic structures and things that are woven. And, you know, so that makes me think that there's a particularly artistic individual that lives up that creek, you know? Yeah.
Kelly, I agree with you. I stand corrected. They're an ancient people. Okay. I agree. I stand corrected. My bad.
Oh, what's that?
Oh, Kelly says the Sasquatch are ancient people, not an animal.
Oh, yes.
I stand corrected. I stand corrected. They've been around a really, really long time.
Yeah. Well,
Lots
you
of
know,
reports.
we're all animals, but
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of reports going back years and years and years on them, you know. We're almost done, boy. This hour's blown by. I've been wanting to have you on so much, and I'm just so stoked today. So stoked today.
Well, I'm having a lot of fun. We should do this again.
We should do it again.
Yeah.
What's going to be next for you?
Well, I'm kind of hoping for some leprechauns.
There we go. Start hanging with the fairy folk out in the woods now.
I know. So we're going to see what happens. But, you know, if I have a choice, I'm putting it out there. I wouldn't mind to see a leprechaun.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. That was Perry. My bad. Perry, I'm sorry. Or did I get the name wrong? No, it was Perry. I apologize. I can't see the names very well on here. I'm blind as a bat. It's my old eyes. So Perry looks like Kelly. Kelly looks like So yes, I agree with you, Perry. Or Penny? Is it Penny or Perry? Penny. See what I mean? It's Penny, not Perry. See? Can't see for Jack. That's why as soon as I start getting a producer in here, it'll be a hell of a lot easier to do the show too. Because I'll be able to see all your names. Because every time you see me reach forward, you guys, that's me trying to make the screen bigger so I can read your comments. But yes, Penny, I agree. It is an ancient animal. If you're standing on a corner in Las Vegas, and this is towards the end here, and you're out there with, say, other of the guys that like our Bigfoot investigators and stuff, how do you get people to listen to your stories as opposed to their stories?
Well, I guess I don't really do anything to get them to listen. You know, I tell my story and I count on the universe to send the people that are supposed to hear it my way. You know, it's I figure it's out of my hands. You know, I'm kind of just like the messenger here. You know, the universe is gonna orchestrate what it wants to have happen, and I will happily do my part and tell my stories.
Absolutely fantastic, Barbara. It has been an honor to have you on.
Oh,
thank you so much for coming on. We got to get you back on.
I would love that.
Sounds great. Okay, could you tell us your website so people can find you?
You can find me on Facebook under Barbara Shupe, and you can find me on YouTube under Barbara Shupe 1964. I think if you just Google me, it'll come up. And I got some awesome videos on there. I've got the fairy video. I got the Bigfoot videos. I got some awesome stuff. Okay, cool. Very cool. I'm just looking at the names of the chat room. Let's see. Let me go in real quick. See, every time I lean forward, I'm trying to read this thing. Thank you, Penny. Kelly, what are you? See, we got Marisa and Penny. Don't get old, you guys. That's the problem. You know, we love being, young, but once you get old, all this crap happens. Kelly Bateman, thank you very much. So thank you guys, Ashley as well. So thank you guys for joining us today in the chat room. I really appreciate it. And again, we're gonna have to get you back on, Barbara, because I really I could pick your brain all day. I would love that. That'd be great. Sounds great. All right, and at the end of the show, I will show your contact information as well. So have a great rest of your evening, and thank you so much. I just so appreciate it. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Okay, have a good one. You too. Bye. Bye. Okay, that was a dream come true. I love talking with people like Barbara. It is so cool to me. I'll be on cloud 9 for the rest of the week on that one. And thank you, chat room. I really appreciate it. Again, as soon as my producer starts coming in here, I won't have to be straining to see these things anymore. All right, tomorrow we're kind of shifting gears. We'll be back at 6:30 p.m. Pacific for Jeffrey Sussman, and we're going to be talking about the mafia in Hollywood. And I remember growing up, my father used to love to read things like Hollywood Babylon and all these different books, and there were quite a few stories of movie starlets that had got involved with mobsters. So this should be really interesting to talk with him tomorrow.
I want to thank everybody for coming, and I will give you Barbara's information for contact, and be sure to check out her YouTube page. Her YouTube, there's a lot of stuff on there, and I think you guys will like it. Anyway, if you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hated the show, share it with 5 of your enemies. We are equal opportunity here. We're just trying to get the word out about our little show. Trying to hit that 1,000 mark on YouTube, and just keep those numbers growing. And you guys are doing a really good job of passing the word out. All right, so here we go. I'll give you the information before I sign off. Boom. All right, let me grab that, and it's down here, and off we go. Websites: Barbara Shupe Facebook. Find her on Facebook. And then you've got youtube.com/@Barbara Shupe 1964. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, and I will have that update on the gingerbread house, the Easter gingerbread house, and the eggs. I'm going to go shoot that tonight, so that will be posted for you guys to see. So have a great rest of your night. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.